Hello, everyone. Good morning to the workshop two, four C's of cloud security, Kubernetes security workshop. This is a pre-sequel to the Kubernetes Community Days KCD Kerala event, which is happening next month at Kochi. Uh, Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining on a beautiful Saturday morning here in Kerala. Okay. And we have Koti Velanki, who will be our speaker for this session. Just a few words about Koti. So first of all, Koti, thank you for doing this workshop. We understand it is a weekend, and thank you for taking a couple of hours from your schedule on a weekend to do this workshop for the benefit of the entire tech community, which is around Kubernetes. Now, a quick couple of words about Koti. Koti is basically into the DevOps stream. He currently works for UST, and he has been in the market or the technology area for more than around 5 years. Okay, primarily into the DevOps tools. Before UST, he actually was working with HCL Technologies. Okay, so has a wealth of knowledge around using different types of DevOps tools. Now, when we say about DevOps tools, right, these toolings are equally important for many technologies. So whether it is Kubernetes, whether it is the public cloud, whether it is on-prem based infrastructure, right? So, Koti, over to you. I'll be here. I'll be muting my video, but I'll be pretty much here. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Regis, for the wonderful introduction. But like I said, so we'll get started quickly. So already we are on time right now. So hello all, namaskar, good morning, and I hope all of you are doing great. So drop me an S in the chat if you can hear me loud and clear. If something is wrong, like I can quickly walk through the chat and I can
Hello, Koti. Am I audible?
I think I am not hearing anything.
Yes, yeah, Ajish, I think we just have Koti frozen. Thanks, Ajish, for that. Yeah, I think he got disconnected. Yeah, we were discussing about technology challenges just before we started, and incidentally, probably I believe there has been some internet connectivity issue at Koti's session.
Yes, I think we can ask Koti to turn off his camera.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was telling us that he was having some bandwidth issues. So
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I probably will believe Koti will be joining anytime soon. So those who just joined now, Ayush, Girish, good morning. We just about started our workshop, and we are actually also recording this session just for your information. Okay, so we see Koti back. Hi, Koti. It's funny that we were discussing about technology challenges and we actually faced that, but that's okay. What we do is that, okay, you already have access to the
yes,
uh,
yes.
screen share. Go ahead. Yeah.
So yeah, so thank you so much. Yeah, that is what, right? Like we are just discussing about and like internet tested us. So I had this a quick breakthrough. You can hear me and right? So
Oh,
everybody can hear me and
perfect.
okay, yeah. So now today, before we move on to agenda, right? Like I had to admit this. Like today, it's a beautiful Saturday morning. We are not sipping a chai on the God-owned country Kerala, but we are on the virtual workshop adventure of as a part of KCD Kerala. It's been amazing. It's my sincere pleasure to be here. So let's get straight into the point. So have you ever felt like, worried somebody says container escape or somebody talk about container security? Just drop me in the chat. So, like, if you ever feel container security is an issue, or how many of you have nightmares for the pod privilege escalation? So when somebody says, "Hey, your pod has to have these many controls, but it is having more," right? Some sort of admission control related issues. Or are you the one who has secretly wished that, like, your Kubernetes cluster has to be foolproof against any security misconfigurations, just like me? If you say yes to any of these things, then we are at the right place. Today, we are not just talking about or just walking through a simple presentation. We are seeing the security tools in action. I had to tell you all of them which we are going to interact today are completely open source because we love open source, not only as part of KCD Kerala, throughout the Kubernetes community, we love open source and we respect open source. That is the reason today, whatever you see in slides or whatever you see in demo or the cloud environment which you are consuming killer coda environment, everything is open source. Okay, with that said, so a simple agenda, not much. So we'll try to first understand the Kubernetes security problems. Means like, is it that important, right? Like everybody say like Kubernetes is important, but now people are moving towards Kubernetes everywhere, like whether it is small organization, mid-scale organization, or like MNCs. Everybody is using Kubernetes, but securing Kubernetes is that important. Like we'll first understand the problem, and then so when we have the problem we need to come up with some solution, right? So we'll understand and get some solutions out of the problems, and then, like I said, as it's a workshop and you all are spending your valuable time on Saturday with us, so we'll see those tools in actions in the form of workshop. And finally, I have a small surprise for all of you who attended this workshop and who are doing hands-on with me. Okay, I'll reveal that surprise in the later. So now a bit about me. Like anyway, Sri has already introduced me. Now I'm working as a DevOps engineer for Adobe through a payroll company called UST. And these are my social media handles and LinkedIn, YouTube, email, or TopMate, something like. So then we'll strictly come to the title of that article. Like when I say 4 C's of cloud security, these are the 4 C's which what I mean, right? So I have something in chart. Okay, fine. So yeah, when I say 4 C's of cloud security, this is what I mean. So these are the possibilities when you're interacting or when you're doing something with the cloud, right? So first of all, when we have the requirement and when we're kind of building an application, you have to write your code, right? So there is a chance that your code may have vulnerabilities. So you need to be cautious when you're from the time we started coding, right? So that is the first C which we are talking about, right? Your code may have security issues, you have to be conscious. Then, so as a developer, like you wrote some code, developers wrote some code, and they kind of moved it to next level. Now, I'm confident that my code is fine, right? The second level, I had the container, right? So when I had the code and when I kind of built everything, I need to ship that code to somewhere. You ship the code like, these days, like you take Docker, Podman, any use any sort of container tools. So what we are doing, we are just shipping our code to the next level for the sake of isolation and of the that particular module. So in that case, what we are using is a container. So that container has to be secured enough. So to avoid any security complications. Okay, this is my step 2 in the cloud security. Okay, now I came across 2 steps. So now the third step is like cluster, right? So now again, so you have code ready, container ready. you need to deploy this container to somewhere, right? Like basically a Kubernetes cluster, right? So our cluster has to be secured. So that is my step three. Like if anything goes wrong in the lower stages, obviously the entire thing will go wrong, right? The cluster entire infrastructure will get compromised. So that is where like cluster security is important. The finally or the top layer is cloud. Like when you have those whether it is public cloud or private cloud or on prem, right? So where you run your workloads, that is where the cloud part comes in. So when you are trying to build a secured application, right? The thing, one thing like these four things are pretty much crucial for us, right? So that is why like we have to understand all these four C's, and you have to be very focused on these areas. Then like we'll kind of cover everything related to security. So now let's first understand the problems, right? Like initially, so we said like, okay, these are the possible areas, like four C's we talked about. These are the areas that, uh, security issues may come. But how big are these issues, right? So these are the few statistics I got from various resources. So those all are telling that approximately 60% of Kubernetes security incidents which are happening are just because of misconfigured deployments. If you write your AML of a pod deployment or not deployment file, if you write your AML properly, you could have avoided more than 60% of security incidents which are happening in the Kubernetes space, which is huge, right? Similar thing goes to container images, right? Everybody talking about Docker and Podman, like we are building images. Whenever our code is ready, we are kind of building images and we are shipping one place to another. But how secured is your container? So now, like this report says, like over 70% of container images which are out there have at least one vulnerability. So how did you come about this vulnerability, right? This is a serious issue. And like another report says, like whatever the Kubernetes clusters which we are running out, so only 30% or less are having CAS benchmark are following. So we have non-profit organizations which define CAS benchmarks. Hey, so if you are building any cluster, if you are doing some sort of talking about security, these are your rule books, right? You need to do these, right? You need to implement this security, that security. We have a standard guidelines, but only less than 30% of the people are actually following this. So again, it's a serious threat. So similarly, 76% of security breaches in Kubernetes are just because of unauthorized access. We talked about, right? Like if you give the right permissions to the right application or the right pod, so you can avoid all those things. So similarly, like these are many things. These are the list of popular problems which are from the popular reports. So now, okay, Koti, now we understand that, okay, so we are implementing things related to Kubernetes and the pod and everything stuff. But yeah, we do understand like there are a lot of problems. But what is the solution, right? So solution is not just one thing, right? Like when you have these many problems, the solution set also comes with the list only. So now, whatever I'll just switch over between these two slides for the better understanding. So whatever like the tools which we are seeing here, right? Like these are the solutions for the problem set here. So here we have six problems which are identified majorly, and the for six problems we have six different solutions here. Okay. So when I say about container security as a second point, right? Over say 70% of container images have at least one known vulnerability. How can I avoid that? So if I use Trivy, scan my cluster, and I'll get notified about all these secure known vulnerabilities, and I can find remedies and those stuff. Similarly, so approximately 60% of Kubernetes security is having at least misconfigured deployments we are talking. So if I use kubesec, like at the beginning of the talk, like I mentioned, right? So all of them are open source, like Trivi, CubeSec, whatever the tools which we are seeing, everything is open source and everything as part of the CNCF. Okay. So CubeSec, if I configure or if I just do one scan with CubeSec through my YAMLs, so I would have avoided all these secure misconfigured deployments. Similarly, like CIS benchmarks, if I use Kubebench before I run any of the workloads, then I could have avoided all this and I could have followed all the CIS benchmarks. So unauthorized access. So when I say like when some resource is trying to gain access which it shouldn't have, then if I run Cube Hunter, it's like internal detective. So what it will do, it will scan through the cluster and it will say like, okay, this particular resource is trying to get more access. So similarly, Falco, right? Like uh, Falco is a real-time detection. So when we say real-time detection, whenever each simple event is happening, for example, a pod is getting created. So Falco will have a closure eye on the entire resources, telling that hey, uh, some new resources getting created, and these are the details. So is it fine? So it will watch each and everything, and it will give a note. It will give notification accordingly. So these are the problems and these are the solutions, right? So hope that is clear. So far, anybody have any questions? Drop me yes if you can move forward, or if you have any questions, we can spend some time there.
Yeah, so if you have any questions to Kote, you may actually unmute your audio and ask now itself. Otherwise, you can put it in the chat window. I will read it out to Kote later. But otherwise, please feel free to unmute your audio and ask questions. Okay, thanks, Kote, for doing the check.
Yeah, thank you, Sirius, for the quick note. So now, so we understand these are the solutions. Let's quickly, deep dive into these tools for a quick 5-10 minutes before we actually doing workshop based on these tools. So these are the tools which we are using in our actual workshop and a hands-on workshop. So before that, I just wanted to give a broader view on all those tools. Like we already talked about these tools, but I'm just take one step inside to explain this. So like I said, Trivi again, all of those are open source, and Trivi, what it will do, it will scan through the cluster whenever your image can be in the Docker Hub or in ECR, ACR, any sort of registry. So when you provide this image URL where your image is stored, Privy will scan that image and it will say like, hey, you have given me this URL or you have just given me this instruction to scan through this cluster, and it has these vulnerabilities, or it is perfectly fine to use it. So all those things will be done with Trivi. So Trivi, if to just put in an example, right? So whenever you're entering to any hotel, or take a scenario of entering into KCD Kerala conference. So we are this conference is happening at a hotel. So we are just entering the hotel. When you're entering into the hotel, right, there will be security scanner. So which will scan you that some if I'm carrying some weapons or something, right? It will scan me and it will identify by whistling that buzzer, right? So Trivi also do the same. Like whenever you wanted to deploy an image to existing workload, so it will scan that image properly and say tell you before only like, hey, something went wrong or something is wrong with this. So this is about Trivi. So next comes a CubeSec. CubeSec is like to put this context, like by explaining all this, like I'll use KCD Kerala conference analogy for the better understanding. So CubeSec is like our program committee. So Srijit is there, Ranjit is here, and many of the folks who are working day in and day out, kind of put these workshops and various talks and lot of CFP processes happening, right? So, like this is CubeSec is like program committee. So what they'll do, they'll have standard set of instructions that okay to select a talk for the KCD Kerala. What are the standard? What are the speaker profile, right? So that the speaker have any previous talks, and how about the content? The content is really worth. So when the content is good and speaker is worth, then next phases would be like, so it's a beginner level talk, it's an intermediate level talk, or it's an advanced talk. So it's when you're doing it a conference, right? Like we have to respect all sort of audience. So if you want to keep all the intermediate level, it won't be satisfied for the beginners and advanced. If you keep all advanced talks, it will be like nightmare for beginners and intermediate level, right? So like this, CubeSec, what it will do, it will work similarly. It will just have a set of instructions, okay, and it will just check according to them. Okay, these are the checks which is pausing. Is this talk beginner talk? Is this talk intermediate talk? Is this talk advanced talk? So, is it a workshop? Or right? Is it a 30 minutes talk? Is it a 45 minutes talk? So all these checks CubeSec will do for our cluster, and then it will give you the score, right? So to select a talk, we need to have a scoring algorithm, right? So if these checkpoints are ticked, so you get 5 out of 5, you get 4 out of 5. So similarly, CubeSec also will give us a score, right? So when you scan this email, YAML file. So if the score is too low, out of 10, there are 1 or 2 points, then there is a serious problem with that YAML file. So then what I need to do, I need to do my homework and kind of explain that, oh, hey, this is what happening, right? Your some resources which or some configuration which you're written in YAML is causing some issue. Something like that, we can quickly check into it and then kind of rectify it before you going for the actual deployment. So that is what KubeSec will do. So yeah, these are the few features of KubeSec. Like it will limiting kernel privileges and prevent privilege escalation. And if you want to get a limiting on CPU, RAM, all those things we can configure. And all these are like standards, and you can kind of compare with accordingly. So then comes the kube bench. We talked about it. Only less than 30% of what are the Kubernetes cluster out there are following CAS benchmarks. But if you want to enforce that, okay, whatever the resources or clusters which I'm using are well aware of the CAS benchmarks, then you can make use of Kubebench, right? It will have all standard practices, and it will suggest you that, hey, here you are missing something. You might need to rework on it. So then comes the cube hunter. So cube hunter is kind of detective in nature. So what it will do, like it's kind of have a closure list, and then it will kind of do IDS, intrusion detection system, within our cluster with our permission, right? So what it will, whenever the workloads are happening, it will launch series of attacks within our cluster, and it will identify what are the weak points. Okay, so I have like, I'm using AWS Cloud, for example, and I'm using like 10 resources. So in that 10 resources, like if I with my existing configuration, so these are the possibilities. So it will launch an attack, and it will get notify us like, hey, with your existing configuration, these are the things happening. So you can go for these kind of remedies. So this kind of information will be get from Cube Hunter. So then project Falco. Falco, it like I mentioned, right? It's on watchful eye. So it will keep a closer look. So in Kerala, like I've been to Kerala once, and so most of the traditional houses have a sentinel bird, and like those are and the earlier days, like I heard like many stories. So when I've been there, I didn't see the sentinel bird, but I heard many stories about sentinel bird in especially in Kerala. So what they used to do, they used to have one bird in their home. So it will keep track of kind each and every activity. similar to CC camera these days, right? It will capture every moment and inform a warner that hey, some spike in the event is happening, right? As some abnormal behaviors are happening. Somebody is trying to open the door, which is usually don't happen, right? When all these kind of activities can be tracked through Falco, and we can. There are multiple levels. By noticing this, we can start from debug level to information level, error level. All these levels we can configure. That will see it in action when you are doing workshop. But basically, it is the thing that kind of get all the insights, and it will monitor each and everything, literally everything which is happening at the cluster. Falco will capture everything. So finally, gatekeeper, right? Gatekeeper is one such tool. So for example, basically it's a like watchman of a home, or like or kind of KCD Kerala venue, right? So what watchman usually do, right? Like when somebody is trying to enter into the, right? So we'll have a registration for the conference. So they'll check like, okay, you have the registration, you are trying to attend this event, then you are allowed. Similarly, so a gatekeeper also, when you are trying to create any resource to the Kubernetes cluster, for example, I'm trying to create a pod, simple Nginx pod. So what I can do, I can just write an YAML, or you can just write an YAML, kubectl, run Nginx, and then name. I can just simply start a pod. But when you provide a specific rules for gatekeeper that hey, whenever a new pod is getting created in my cluster, get labeling is a matter. So it's a mandatory. So when you enforce those kind of rules, so what gatekeeper will do, it will ensure that okay, you're trying to create pod, but you're not specified any label. Then it will stop then and there itself, telling that hey, there is no label. You are not allowed to create any resource. So similarly, you can specify memory limits. For example, every any pod which you are creating has to have a maximum of 100 megabits of memory. So I created a memory of like 200 megabytes. So then it will stop me creating that pod, and it will say like, hey, you're trying to create a pod with 200 megabits, but the actual memory is which I got the uh, instruction that 100 MB. So you are not allowed to create it. So it will stop, and it will make sure that whoever trying to create any resource to your cluster will abide by all the rules which we have defined. So these are the like tools which we are kind of going through. Okay. So far, any questions before we jump into workshop? Yes, very well said, Ranjit. Like, the great alternative for gatekeeper is Kiverno. So Kiverno also do the same thing. Yes. Thank you for putting. I forgot to mention Kiverno. Yes. Thanks, Ranjit, for that. So,
And,
Dropper, yeah.
Kochi
Any
Governor is also a CNCF. I don't know what stage it is, but it is a CNCF. I don't know, approved project, right?
which one?
Kiverno,
Gatekeeper.
Kiverno.
Yeah, Kiverno is in like in incubated state, I
Oh,
guess,
incubated.
last time.
Okay.
But yeah, they're kind of planning to going
Graduate
to
next time.
graduate
Yeah. Okay.
coming days. Yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. So yeah, if you are good so far, then we'll straight away jump into our workshop, hands-on workshop, and then we'll see all those tools which we saw till now in the action. Are we good to go? Drop me yes if you can, uh, or if you have any questions, feel free to drop in chat.
Yeah, team, if you are okay to start with the hands-on workshop, please put a message in the chat so that we know you are there and actively listening. We will be sharing the hands-on workshop URL into the chat right away if you do not have a local Minikube environment. Okay, thank you, Maithili, Ajish, and Jalil. Ayush, Jibin, and Girish, we believe you are there. So, Koti, I can share the URL which you shared to me earlier.
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay.
So,
Yes.
yeah, if you have any questions or if you have any difficulties in following any step, just drop a message in the chat or unmute yourself and ask your question. Right?
Yeah. So, Koti, I just shared the URL into the chat. Everyone, you can actually click that URL, which would open a new tab in your browser. Okay. And like Koti said earlier, this is a cloud-based environment. I think you need to log in with your social handles. I think it accepts Google and all those. Please.
Yes, I'll walk them through that,
Yeah,
Srijit.
yeah. Koti,
I
go ahead.
myself using the same link, so you can. I think you are still able to see my screen.
Yeah, we can see your presentation, not the browser.
Yes, yes, same. So I just opened the chat and I kind of copied the link. So
Okay.
I'm also using the same link. So when you open the link, so this is the page where we land. So Kubernetes security with Minesweeper. Again, Minesweeper is an open source tool which kind of inculcated all those tools at one place. Whatever the six tools which we talked about. So Kubebench, Kubehunter, Trivi, Falco, Gatekeeper. It kind of put all these things together and we'll just get into that. Okay. So when you open this page, so this is the thing which we are doing, Kubernetes security with Minesweeper. Okay. And when you come here, so like Srijit mentioned, it is asking for social logins. Okay. So you can use any of those GitHub, GitLab, Google, or anything. Okay.
Uh,
So
Koti, are you sharing your browser screen now?
yes, it's not visible. Okay, then let me stop and share it
Yeah,
again.
it's still showing the presentation saying gatekeeper.
Oh, okay,
You
okay.
can see
Sorry,
it.
I'm sharing my complete screen. Maybe
Okay.
hope that will fix this.
Yeah, Ayush, same here. I think Koti is sharing the entire screen now.
Okay, okay. Sorry, my bad. So hope I shared complete screen. So hope it is my browser is visible
Yeah,
now.
yeah, we can see your Killer Coda screen now. Yeah.
Yes. So this is what I could about. Like if I go one step back, so this is the URL which we got, and then here I'm just clicking on Kubernetes security with Minesweeper. So this is what we are gonna do today, right? So here, like Srijit mentioned, these are the possible cases which we have. You can log in through GitHub, GitLab, or your Gmail, anything you can use, right? So in that, in my case, I'll just make use of my Google. So I'm using my email ID. So initially, as we mentioned it, in the free tier of this, we'll have strictly 60 minutes of session. So we have to complete them on this time. Okay. So are we good to start? So hope everybody logged in.
Yeah, I see a thumbs up from Ayush. Thanks, Ayush. Others, I believe, we believe you are actually already into the environment. Like,
Everybody has to be in the same page.
right. Yep. Yeah, Koti, I'm not doing it because I don't want the cloud environment to be too busy. I've done it, yeah, I think a couple of days back. So, yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, anyway, it is cloud environment. It will be available for everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks for trying out previously. So, so our timer will, as soon as we start, the timer will goes down. So if I see couple of essays in the chat, and I'll think like everybody is good with starting, and then thanks Jalil, thanks Ajish. So yes, then let's just jump into workshop. So this is the beginning phase. So 1 minute we can draw about Minesweeper. Like I already mentioned, it's just another open source tool which has uh, put together all these popular tools, like six popular tools together, and it's purely open source and it's purely built on based on Helm. So if you have heard about Helm, so entire Minesweeper will work on the basis of Helm. So whatever the instructions which we are executing in the terminal are basically are clustered today. So all are Helm commands. Okay. So with that, let's just start. So, like I mentioned, right, it's a Helm repo. So there are two ways. So in this environment, if you want to type in or just copy paste, you can do it. Or if you just click here, right, on this window, the command will be triggered automatically. So what the command says Helm repo add minesweeper, and we are just adding this minesweeper to our cluster. So it's a simple Helm command. Okay. So I'll just execute this command. So it says minesweeper has been added to your repository. So to check that, I'll just use Helm ls, sorry, Helm repo ls. So which will show me all the repositories Helm repo. So we just create added one repo to our existing. So once you're done with, so click on check. If says validation successful, then we are good to go. If you anybody has any issues, then drop me in the chat. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Vijay. Do it. So that is the beginning step. So now, so what we are done. So Minesweeper repo is sitting somewhere. We kind of got that cluster to our local Kubernetes cluster. So cluster, the Minesweeper repo is here, but we haven't installed yet. So to before installing, right, we have an instruction. So this instruction is nothing but the customization as per our needs. So basically in Help, values.ml is a one crucial file where you configure all the secrets and access related stuff. So it is very critical. So so for this demo, what we have done, we have kind of separated this values.ml according to our needs. So if I just do ls, I can see values.ml. I hope the same thing with you. So I'm using VI. You can use Nano or any of your editor to just edit these values. So I'm using VI values.ml. So here I'm kind of replace all these keys, right? So in the global API key, I'm just adding this is a demo key. Okay. If you are using VI editor, so all you need to do VI and then file will open. On click of I, you will be in insert mode. Okay. To paste, copy paste this stuff. So I just copied with Control C, and then in the insert mode, I just did a right click and then paste. So I added my API key. So after API key, what are the things I need? So super admin email and super admin password, which will help us to log into Minesweeper UI. So for that matter, so what I'm doing, I'm just providing these credentials. Demo@demo.com is my super admin email and demo password. So it is case sensitive. So you have to type in exactly same or else you'll run into some issues. Okay. So for that matter, so what I'll do, first I'll show you the issue. For example, instead of okay, demo password, I'll say demo password 123. So I save it. If I check, so it says validation failed because I intentionally did a mistake of adding 123, right? So it has to be exactly same because we configured labs for to avoid any last minute issues, just like my internet connection did today. Okay, so I just save it, and if I check, it has to pass ideally. So validation is successful. Are we good so far? So be interactive and be kind of dropping the messages if you have any queries or if you are good, so that I'll also get aware that okay, everybody is in sync. It's a virtual because I'm asking like this. If it is in-person workshop, I could have walked through your cabins and kind of walked throughout the room. Okay. So yeah, so far good one. Thanks, Rajesh, for confirming. So now, what we have done is like we have grabbed a report to local and we have customized our values.ml. So for the accessing purpose, now the step is right. I need to install that report to a cluster, right? So what I'm doing is so a simple Helm command. So it has several things. So first it will install Minesweeper with the simple Helm command. Okay. And then it will create a namespace for us, which is Minesweeper system, similar to our Cube system. So before that, I'll just quickly show you what are the things we have here. So if you just say kubectl get namespace. So right now we have like default cube node list, and these are the default namespaces. So before we actually install Minesweeper, right? So what I'll do, I'll just quickly execute this command. It's just a one click. Okay, I'll just Helm upgrade. So this is the command Helm upgrade install Minesweeper. So we are just installing Minesweeper, and also we are telling create a namespace called Minesweeper system. And when you are configuring or installing this Minesweeper for me, you use values.ml, which I have created, right? So where it is, it's in root folder and it name as values.ml. So to double check, right, I'll just open new tab. Okay. And in the open tab, I'll just do ls. And here I have values.ml. So if I just do pwd, it is telling root. So that means the exactly where we kept values.ml. So if you want to keep it in some other place, like if you created a directory for demo, so in that demo you have kept values.ml, then your path will be like slash root slash demo and values.ml. So, but we created directly in the root folder. That's why I'm using values.ml. And then wait timeout. So for bringing up this thing, right, it will take time. So keeping my internet connection and everything in mind, I created like a wait time of 10 minutes. So if the cluster or the installation of Minesweeper is not happened within 10 minutes, then it will fail. So if it is below 10 minutes, then it will be succeeded. So I can't just keep on keep the installation window open for infinite time. So that is the reason I kept a timeout for 10 minutes. Right? That is that instruction. And Minesweeper, we have various versions, and right now the version which I'm using is 1.4.2. So that's the version I'm using. So hope that instruction is clear. Again, if you have any doubts at any point of time, unmute yourself or drop in the chat. I'm happy to answer that. Okay, this is the instruction we are following and it is taking time. Once it is up, so then we'll be able to. So meanwhile, right, like if you just wanted to check, so what are the things you are creating? So you can just check here. So few things are running and few things are completed. And when you do it, as soon as you trigger this command, right, install command, when you execute this command, you will be seeing creating, usually creating pod sort of thing. Okay. Right now it is successful. Okay. Uh, how I got to know that because of this. So the status is deployed. Okay. So I'll just check whether for myself I am done. Okay. According to killer code also I'm done. So validation is successful. So that's the another step. Now, okay. hey, Koti, you said like, okay, this tool has the integration of all these tools. How can I access, right? So just now we installed Minesweeper into our machine. So now we come to the access part. Okay. Before that, like previously we have created this thing and we have checked namespaces also, right? If you just wanted to double check on the namespaces, so you have Minesweeper system here, right? If just to get an idea, right? So whatever the components which are related to Minesweeper system will be part of this namespace. Now, to access that application, what I'm doing, I'm kind of exposing this Minesweeper application. So if I just wanted to see services which are part of this kubectl service -n Minesweeper system. So okay, sorry, I missed get. Okay, so these are the main services which come with Minesweeper. Dash is for dashboard, and Postgres is a database which kind of stores all the configuration. And RabbitMQ is a messaging service. So whenever these actions or something, when you walk us through multiple components which we talked about, right? When you're doing some activity with Kubebench or Kube Hunter. So to post all those actions, we are using RabbitMQ. These are the three major services in Minesweeper. So right now, what I wanted is I wanted to access dashboard. So for that reason, what doing, I'm doing port forward for the service Minesweeper Dash, which is dashboard on 80 of the internal, and the application runs on 330. So the application currently running on port 3000. So I'm exposing it on the 80. So the address is for 000. So like where the request comes. So I'm allowing every request. So that's about this port forward command. So when I execute this, right, it started serving the traffic on port 80. So how to access the dashboard? There is a blue button here to access the dashboard. Click here. So you will land into this page. Okay. Now, what is email and password? Right? So if you remember in our early stage, we kind of configured this, right? So what is that? Demo at demo.com is the email ID. And maybe password is demo password. If you forgot, the instructions are here. Okay, instructions are right down here. So I just provided my email ID, which is super admin email ID, and then password. And as I click on login, hopefully I need to log in. Okay, so I have logged in. How many of you are logged in successfully? So if everybody is logged in successfully, I'll just spend a minute time here by explaining all these components which you are seeing in the dashboard, and we'll jump on to next thing. Anybody is able to log in successfully? Drop me a S in the chat.
I think I saw Ayush giving a thumbs up.
Awesome, awesome. Logged in. Thanks, Ajit. Thanks, Ayush. Mythili is still loading. Yeah, hopefully it will be done. Okay, Jalil Ali, stuck at previous stage. Okay. So you had any issue?
Yeah, it says that
Okay, ran into some issue, is it?
yeah, it's like the previous stage where we have to enter we need to edit that YAML file, right?
Values.ml, right? Yes.
Yeah, it says even though I gave the key and username password, it's still When I check it, it's saying validation failed.
Okay, can you like will he be able to share his screen, Srijit?
We can make Janil share. Janil, can you try sharing the screen?
Yeah. You cannot while other participant is share.
So I need to stop maybe. Yeah, can you try once?
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, it is loading. Yeah.
Loading. So yeah, this is a demo key. Oh no. So the problem is like you added API key, global API key as part of Falco API key. So that is the problem. So you need to paste this at the above. You understood what I said?
Upload. Oh, here. Okay.
Yeah. So this is a demo key only is there, right? That you have to place at the above where API key is. Exactly. Yes.
So
So
the other one we need to keep it. I don't know what was the previous one.
yeah. Don't worry. I'll check it for you. Yeah, values.ml. And that is just Falco API key. So I'll just paste it in the chart, or yeah, I'll just paste it in the chart. It's a simple Falco API key. That's it. So I pasted in the chart. All small Falco API key. Yes, perfect. So can you save now and check for validation? Perfect, perfect. Yes. So yeah, you can
Yeah, I'm
continue.
sure.
Yeah. So just execute the command and then two commands behind. So you can kind of
Yeah, I'll try to catch up you guys.
yes. So that is about this. Okay. Okay, now so far we are good, right? Like we kind of, I hope, like meanwhile, he brings up his cluster. So I'll just spend a minute on explaining these features. So right now, what we are seeing is the default cluster group. So if you want to create multiple cluster groups, for the purpose of you have multiple clusters, okay, in multiple groups. For example, I have a dev environment, QE, prod and stage. So these are the four environments I have. So in every environment, I have like various clusters. So if I wanted to separate them based on the environment, what I'll do, I'll create a cluster group here. Hey, this is the dev environment. This is the QE cluster group. This is the uh, stage work group. This is the prod work group, which I promote to production. So I can create a group and then I can create a cluster, something like that. So by default, we have created one default cluster group. In that default cluster, it has all the components. If I want to create a additional cluster, I can create cluster and I can get the cluster details and the stuff. So we are not going into this. So adding new cluster right now will just consume existing cluster, right? So when I click on this default cluster, right? So these are the components which we talked about. So the summary is basically a summary of the entire cluster, that how many images are running. So what are the vulnerabilities like identified when with the existing images, and we talked about gatekeeper. Gatekeeper will notify about policy violations when you enforce any rule, and when the pod kind of violates that and trying to create that, it will identify it as a violation. So how many violations are there? So what are the complaint summary or a period of month? and how many scans got happened over the period of month. So historically, what is happening with your cluster? Because so first week of the month, if I have 100 vulnerabilities, so end of the month, it is ideal that like my count has to reduce because I'm keep on working on it. So it will show me that okay, starting we have these many vulnerabilities. At the end of month, your vulnerability graph is like that. So all these things you can do, and it's there are like various sections and based on namespaces and every namespace. What are the issues? What are the how many are the critical major? All those things are like self-explanatory. So this is a overall summary. So then comes the cluster info. Cluster info is like where we created a cluster, right? So if you want to update the cluster at any point of time, you can update kube config and you can put a new config there and you can kind of manage your cluster accordingly. And if you want to edit few configuration, you can do it. And if you don't want this cluster to be noticed, then you can straight away delete the cluster, right? These are the options and the cluster level. So when you are saying like you logged in as a super admin, right? That is the reason you have all these CRUD things as well. So if you are just a basic user, or you're just a contributor. So you won't be having these delete options and the stuff. You can configure all of them, but in the organization settings. But right now, we'll keep our focus on these six tools, right? So with that said, so we'll jump into another sections, right? So, but it's a basic overview of the dashboard, right? So cluster groups and complaint summary and the stuff, and then you'll jump into this cluster. Here we'll have all these options. We'll go into one by one. Okay. So so far, any questions? Everybody is following. Are we good to move to next?
Yeah, you can comment in the chat if you are okay. Okay.
Okay, I see couple of faces. So yes, thanks for that. So now, next thing, right? So we talked about, right? Like if you scan your pod once before you actually put it into production, you could have avoided many issues. Like how can I scan that, right? That is the issue, right? So now, so this is the window. Anyway, we already here. So in this, so what I'll do, I'll just go to images because I'm kind of scanning the images. I'll go to image section. I'll just copy this command. So what is this is, so this is the URL of a simple Alpine image, which is having 3.18 version. That's it, nothing big. So I am getting from Docker registry, I'm taking one simple image, which is Alpine, and I'm trying to scan it. So how can I do that? So in the dashboard, in the images section, I'll go to image section. I'll click on this plus button right over here, and I'll paste the URL. Okay. And when I click on submit, it will start scanning. But here you have many of those images, right? How can you identify that? So here using the search bar, just search Alpine. You see Alpine 3.18, which we just copied. Dr. Alpine 3.18. So this is the image we just scanned. So when I click on this, so it is telling the scan result is complaint. So if there are any issues with the image, so the latest scan time, all the timestamps, everything is there. Okay. So 11 2 a.m. just right now. Okay. And then if it has any critical, major, medium vulnerabilities, if so, it will notify us here. Okay. And how many, like if you make some changes and if you build image again, right? So you can any point of time you can just rescan image, right? So it is running, and within seconds it will get completed, and you will see the new reports. Okay. So I'll just quickly once again reload it. So Alpine 3.18. So the initial scan is on 11.2 and the second scan is on 11.3. Okay. So this is about image scanning. Okay. Now I have done that, and rescanning anything you can do. If I just to check, everybody is good with scanning image so far. Drop me an S. Awesome, awesome. So now we're kind of done with image scanning. So now we're kind of solve one problem of a vulnerabilities with the image, right? Now, how do you follow the benchmarks, right? That is another challenge, right? How do you enforce somebody, creating workloads in a cluster to follow these runs? It is very difficult to track, right? So how we can do using Kube Hunter, okay? So what you can do, you can get the details of like how the cluster things are there. So what I'll do, I'll just open Kubebench, okay? So which I've done anyways. So here, what I'll do, I'll just select this environment as run audit. So these Kubebench or Kube Hunter, all these things are like just auditing our cluster. So what I'll do, I'll just click on run audit, okay? And then I'll select run one time. Okay. So, and then I'll copy this command. So initially, like I mentioned, everything what we do is simple Helm commands. So again, so if you just check this command, right? So Helm repo add. So we are just adding Helm repo, which is already there because we are done already. So it won't make any change. Then we are kind of updating our existing configuration with the Kube Hunter. So what we are doing, we are just installing Kube Hunter to the Minesweeper components. So in the Minesweeper space, if you just see this line, so we are installing Kube Hunter where Minesweeper installed in within that we are creating another directory with Kube Hunter, and then we are configuring and serving everything through the Minesweeper dashboard. So this is the dashboard URL Minesweeper service, and then our service is running on port 3000. So and API key everything which we have taken default one, and when you copy this command, okay, and execute it here, right, on the new tab. So because in one tab anyway our dashboard is running, that is the reason I took new tab and I'm executing this command here. Hope that is clear. So if you just wanted to run same thing in single tab, so it is not possible because in one tab we've opened this dashboard. Okay. So that is the reason I'm not disturbing tab one and I'm just opening tab two, and here I'm executing this Kube Hunter command. Okay. So when I say this, so it started installing this. Okay. And when you click on next, it will just showing some instructions. When the audit is completed, you'll see the results here. So it may take a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, whenever this Helm installation is happening, so if anybody is stuck, so you can let me know. You can share your screen and you can kind of debug the same. Okay. So right now my this thing is done, scan is done. But what I'll do, I'll just do a quick refresh on the Kube Hunter page. If you see 11.7, right, exactly now, so there is a audit happened and I got the audit reports. When I click on this audit report, so this is what it is telling, right? So what are the standard CIS benchmarks, which I am not following, and are the severe, low, how much is the severity, right? So low, medium, high, right? So you can see it's a straight away coming from Aquasec, which is the maintainer of Cube Hunter, right? So description about that particular vulnerability or what benchmark we are missing. So detailed info you will get with Cube Hunter. And if you want to read more about this, you can use this hyperlinks to understand more and kind of debug and close those things. Okay, I think that is clear. So that's what we did here. And if I just check here, my step is successful or not. Okay, validation failed. So run it once. Okay, drop down menu. Okay, so right now I haven't selected any environment. So what I'll do, I'll just when I'm running this audit, okay. So maybe I ran multiple times. That is the reason I'm not getting this. So usually, like when you are trying to run this audit, right? So you need to get an option of when you see the instructions. So it has to ask for a pop-up telling the standard which sort of environment which you are using. So unfortunately, I didn't get that environment. So anybody is able to see? Oh, okay. Sorry. It's asking for cube bench. Thanks for that. So I did like in a reverse. So yeah, so here. So cube bench is the one. So which we talked about, right? So here I'm just selecting master benchmarks. So there are multiple options here. So one combined for the master node and worker nodes, like which one you wanted to check benchmarks and the stuff. So which one? So for the master nodes for like everything, right? So these are the possible options. And when you are specific about cloud, so if you want to check, for example, your Kubernetes clusters on all AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service, then you can run these kind of scannings to get specific benchmarks to AKS. So now for this, we configured just master benchmarks. Okay. And I'll click on next and I'll just copy this command. So here, before that, I'm not running it on a schedule. So if I just wanted to run only once, so I'll click on this run one time, and then I'll copy the command. I'll click on done, and I'll execute this command here. Okay. Yeah, sorry, that's my bad. Instead of cube bench, I use cube hunter. So again, so when I do that, so it will report a generate just like Cube Hunter did, right? And it will show us the benchmarks. So yeah, now it is done. So what I'll do, I'll just quickly refresh this. Okay. So I got the latest report and it has the cube benchmarks, like what are the standard benchmarks and what it is failing. And if you just see, you can expand everything and see about this, like ensure API server pod specification while permission set to 600 or more. So this is the uh, thing which we are missing and what is expected and what is actual. So currently I haven't, I did like empty. So that is the reason actually the parameter is empty, but in order to follow this is the remediation. So like that, it will guide us through the complete CAS benchmarks. So this is about Kubebench. Is that clear? Drop me an S if you are clear. And now we'll do a quick check on validation. Hope this will go through now. Okay. Yes. So validation is successful. Now, so are we good to move to the next, which is CubeSig?
Yeah, I see
Yes.
thumbs up from Vijay. How about others?
Okay. Thanks, Ajesh. So yeah, now we are proceeding with CubeSig. CubeSig, like I said, like there are two ways that we can interact with CubeSig. So that anyway, will I'll walk you through that. Okay. So CubeSig is a standard thing. So there are two ways, like I mentioned. One, if you have an ML ready, any sort of ML, like whether it is pod ML, deployment ML, service ML, you want to deploy that, what you can do, you can directly upload ML here by selecting it, and you can do a quick check on security scan on that particular ML. That is one way. Or you already ran that ML and you have deployed some workloads. Then what you can do, you can choose those pods from your cluster and they can do it. So for example, if I want to take something in kubepublic, right? I'll see any pods there. Okay, there are no pods in kubepublic. So I'll check Minesweeper. There has to be pods. So in that, I'll just say Kubebench, which we have come across. So I'll run kubesec. So what are the, so it will give you these kind of reports, right? So what are the recommendations? So service, what are the service account names and what are the limits? So it will have the basically like it's a rule book. If somebody wanted to create any resource, like they had to follow all those things. So it will go through all those things and it will give you the score. If the score is too low and it is telling like it's a threat, right? So you have to be cautious about those things. So that is about CubeSec. So there is, if I just, so there is no validation at the CubeSec. So now comes the cube hunter, which anyway we had done it once. We'll do it one more again. So what it will do, cube hunter, like it will try to launch few attacks on our cluster slowly without disturbing our application flow and all. It will take minimal resources and it will try to launch attack and it will give a detailed report on what is happening, right? So for most of those, right, just run audit. You can run anytime, or if you want to run it as a cron job, right, like you can configure that as well, daily, weekly, monthly, or you can even customize this helm command, right? So now it is telling daily, this is the format to run it daily. So if you want like to run it hourly, so you can just update this cron job expression and you can run this thing. So right now for this matter, I'll just copy this, okay, and I'll just run it one more time. So when I do that, anyway, now it will run quickly because it is done scanning already. So Cube Hunter is already there, active with us. So it will be done quickly, ideally. Okay, that's about Cube Hunter. So far, any questions? Are we all in line with what we're doing? So in terms
Hello,
of
Koti.
yes, yes.
Koti, see, my doubt is if I am installing this Minesweeper in the existing cluster, maybe say I am installing it in a production cluster, is it a right way to do it, or I need to do some other environment? It's not. I mean, I am not supposed to install it in a production environment. Is there any?
It depends basically purely on your use case. I'll tell you one way, right? So All you need is your kube config YAML. So if you want to make Minesweeper environment or like specifically one tool, right? So if you want to install any of those tools, like you don't need Minesweeper, right? So you can directly install, all are open source, like including Minesweeper, everything is open source, and you can directly install them in the particular namespace and you can get it. So if you want to use Minesweeper, right? So what you can, the only thing when you're trying to do it is like here. So initially, when you see the, if I go one step back, if I just wanted to add cluster, right? So here you can just do a simple cluster name. For example, test cluster or something. You can provide the name. And if you want to install this Minesweeper automatically, right? You can select kube configure. That is the only thing we need to set up. So once you set up this, it will be the host name and what are the parameters to monitor your cluster will be populated here, and it is available. So you no need to but this is one way. Or if you want to install manually only one cluster, like you have specific endpoints and you want them to be noticed only, so then you can specify this. So this is in terms of installation. So coming to your actual question, so that okay, is it good to install with along with your existing production or is a separator? Again, it depends on use case to use case, right? So and in terms of Minesweeper, it is creating Postgres database within your cluster. So your data is sitting with you, and security is like serious concern. So with that, like nobody is taking your data. It is right where your Kubernetes cluster is sitting. Minesweeper also sitting at the same place. So the communication and everything is easy, and you can feel easily use it. So there is no restriction or there is no data pumping in and out. So everything is with your cluster and within your database. Hope that answer your question.
Uh, yes, Koti. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Got your point.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So now we're done with Cube Hunter, right? So I'll just quickly check. Are we good here? So it says validation successful. Okay. Next comes the Falco, which we are talking about, right? So Falco is the thing which will kind of monitor each and everything what is happening in a cluster. So to do that, there are two steps. Till now, we just did installation once. So what I'll do, the same way I'll just follow. And here there are multiple ways we have talked about, right? Error levels. If you want debug information, which level you wanted to do it. So for this demo purpose, I'm using information level. So as per the instructions which we have drafted here. Okay, so I have configured informational as a thing, and then it will modify my Helm command accordingly. I'll just copy this command. I'll click on done. I'll come here and I'll just clear my screen once and execute this Falco installation command. Okay. So now my Falco has to be ready. As soon as it is ready, so right now if you see, it is in the installation status. So installation never happened. Okay. So once it is done, the status will change. Okay. And you can also see there are no events here, right? To download or to do any sort of analysis, there is no events. So in a while, we'll start seeing those events. Okay. How will generate and those things will come back there in a second. Okay. Now I'll be in this window. I'll just wait for Falco to install. Okay. I have an orange indicator that my environment will be ended in 15 minutes. We'll try to wrap it up by that time. So yeah, Falco is taking time because it's an watchful eye for our cluster. So each and everything it will monitor. So now it is deployed. So if I just come here and refresh, the status will change. So, but if you see, it didn't happen because now in the this first step, what we have done, we have told cluster that hey, install Falco for me and do these activities. But if you want to watch those activities, right, like what is happening and all, what I'll do, this is ready, but it is not reflected yet. So for that matter, what I'm doing, I'm just installing Falco again, right? So now once I install Falco, so now when I do refresh here, so now you see events are getting populated here, right? So each and everything, like every second, what are the things are happening? What is happening as a cluster? So each and every minute event it will capture. And the best thing about Falco is, so if you want to download any of those events at any point of time, you can just quickly download and you can do refresh. Even if you want to sort out few filters, right? So based on the priority. For example, there are a lot of things. I don't want all those. I want only errors and emergency one. If I just search for that, right? I'll get those things. Okay. So right now in our these things there are not much, I guess. So when you have those things, you can walk through these filter options and you can get details which you are decide. Okay, that's about Falco. Is that clear? I'll just quickly check. Are we good here as well? No. What is it telling? So if you want to log these levels, right? So notify about those things. You can configure the settings of the as well. So what I'll do, I'll go to settings. I wanted to get notified about anomalies and like the duration is like every day. Okay. And severity level is like emergency. I think emergency. Yeah. So if there are any emergency alerts, I want to get notified. So to whom this notification has to happen? Is it specific to for some people or to the all admins? So I can go navigate and I can configure all these alerts things and stuff, and I can save. So if you in organization like we'll have DLs, so complete mailing list. So if you want to add those mailing list also, we can add it. So I just configure that and I save those changes. Okay. And if I go back here after saving, and if I check, validation is successful this time. So now coming to the last part, gatekeeper. We talked about more about gatekeeper, right? Gatekeeper is like our watchman. We said like these that we said. So what basically it will do is like when I try to, we'll just install and see it in action. So when I click on install, so it is just giving me one command. Okay, right? So I clicked on gatekeeper and I got this command. I'll just install gatekeeper. So now what it will do, it will whenever, so this thing is about like enforcing few rules within the cluster, right? So right now it is like when I say initially it is empty because I just installed gatekeeper, but I haven't configured any rules. So let's just wait and we'll see that thing. So when once the installation will be completed, and we may need to configure few rules for that. Okay, we'll do it. No worries. And these are all the heads ups, right? So now our gatekeeper installation is successful. I'll just quickly refresh here to see what is there. So now you see gatekeeper is installed, we know, but it is telling it's not set up. Okay, how do you set up? Right, I'll set up here by clicking on the setup. So now you have multiple rules here, and in general under pod security policy, like a lot of things are there. You can configure everything. So for this demo, I'll just quickly edit this container limits. Okay. So I just selected general. Under general, I selected container limits. Okay. And I'll just save it. Okay. My container limits as one constraint which I set up. So now not set up to it changed to setup. But I wanted to configure it more. I wanted to add some more complications. So what I can do, I can just do add more here, and I can add more constraints here. So now, for now, I'll just quickly go through this particular container limits thing which we have created. Okay, and I can just add after clicking that, I'm adding these limits here, right? So whatever I'm doing, I'm just copying and pasting here. Okay. So container limits, which we have created, I'm just using the same name as the constraint and the namespace. And you can in the description also you can copy paste the same. And then so properties we talked about, like if I want only 100 MB, right? How can I do that, right? The resource utilization. So for this, I'm giving 2000 megabits of memory as a CPU. Okay, and that is my constraint, and 4 gigs of memory. So what I'll do, I'll specify memory and CPU. So 2000 memory, 2000 megabits of memory as a sorry CPU, and 4 gigs of memory. These are my constraints. And audit also, right? Like it's not just, I don't want just to simply notify it. I want it to enforce, like whenever new thing is coming in, I want it to enforce it. So these are the configuration changes I have done. Okay. And I'm not excluding any namespace, and I'll just save this configuration. Once I've done that, you can see this new thing here, right? I'll just quickly check. Am I good with this? Yes. So now we are good and the validation is successful. We have completely gone through all these major things, and we kind of missed only two things apart from this. So one is workloads. So workloads is basically namespace based view for us. So if I want to go through particular namespace and see what are the things there, you can just filter based on this, and you can directly check whether it is complaint or not. If it is not, then what is causing this trouble? So you can do those things. And finally, an important thing is like reports. So Minesweeper dashboard will give you clear reports on vulnerabilities, like what are the vulnerabilities we have in the cluster and from where those things came. And we can even visualize this stuff. So for example, if I want to visualize vulnerabilities in Minesweeper system over a period, I can just report this thing and get those vulnerabilities based on the date and the stuff, right? So right now, as it created today, there is no history, and like all those things are like self-explanatory. All those reports you can kind of go through each and every chart and filter accordingly, get the reports and see. So right now, as it's a demo cluster, there are no much reports. But overall, these are the things we have here. But like in the presentation, I mentioned about the surprise, right? So this is what I talked about. So till now, on a Saturday morning, as part of a special event, at least for us, KCD Kerala, you have spent your valuable time. So what we are doing, we kind of providing a shareable certificate. Again, it's a simple instruction. So if you want to get a certificate and you want it to show to the LinkedIn or another social media world, so what you can do, just click a S here, type in S. So you want to create shareable certificate. Yes, I want it. And here provide a name. I'll provide my first name and my last name, and then my email ID, lankikoti@gmail.com. This is my email ID. And I'm just asking for confirmation. Is it the details you wanted? Yes. Now certificate is created successfully, you will receive an email. Okay. And like if you want to know more about these things, right? Like Minesweeper, you can directly just go Google it for Minesweeper and you can get those things. I'll just check I got email or not. So yeah, minesweeper.io. I received an email. So this is my certificate. And if I scroll down, this is what like I can directly add to my LinkedIn profile, or I can share it and through other medias. So this is the thing I have for today, and like whatever the instructions and these presentations, maybe after some time I'll share, and what are the comments also I have added it here. And to summarize our exercise today, right? Like this is what we have done, right? We kind of understood the security importance of security, and especially for the labs, we have installed Minesweeper first, and then Trivi, which is a like scanner, which is there already. We did image scanning. One image we took, URL we took, and we scanned that image, and then using CubeSec, we kind of scanned which is images within the cluster, and there is another way of uploading the YAMLs and the scan, and then Kubebench, which put me into the trouble. So I kind of used Hunter instead of Bench. So Bench will give you the standard benchmarks of a Kubernetes cluster and the stuff that we have installed and we have seen it in action. Kube Hunter, again, a detective sort of thing, which launch IDS sort of attacks and kind of make our cluster strong, right? Before somebody else from the outside trying to do some harm things about cluster. Cube Hunter will launch series of attacks and kind of make our cluster stronger. And Project Falco, which we talk about, it's a watchful eye. So like just like this conference, Srijit is our Falco. Srijit and Ranjit are here throughout the workshop, and they are kind of keeping us in the loop and helping us throughout the workshop. So those are like Falcons for today. And then finally, we saw Gatekeeper. Gatekeeper is like when you're trying to create a pod or something. So we have seen it in action. So how it is kind of putting a constraints on the resource. Like, hey, don't create any resource more than 4 gigs of memory, or don't create any resource which is consuming more than 2000 megabits of RAM, which are memory constraints. So you'll keep those constraints in the stuff. And one final summary of the layers which we have covered, right? Like when I started my talk telling that forces of cloud security, which anyway Ranjit gave me this title. Initially, like my talk is like simple Kubernetes workshop, but Ranjit kind of fine tuned it and he said like, no, for this talk, this would be ideal. So with that, so I thank Ranjit and the team. And so to summarize, what are the layers we've covered, right? Like we kind of secured when you're scanning CubeSec the stuff. So images like we kind of gone through. We have the options of scanning your clusters on AKS, EKS, or on-prem, or just a direct image and everything. So and we have this thing in the cloud. And then when you specific about cluster, so Kubebench about benchmarks and Kube Hunter we covered for the securing that, and especially for container, because when you're creating any pod into something pod, or when you're creating deployment, indirectly you're dealing with containers, right? In that area we have kubesec and gatekeeper. And finally, like before you go into that and code level, like what if code has some vulnerabilities, so what is some activities going wrong? So in the code level we have Trivi and Project Falco as our weapons. So these are our 6 weapons which we get access to today. And like if you want to see it all them at one place, Minesweeper is one action, but it depends on use case to use case. So you can, if you're wanted to just focus on only benchmarks, then directly you can simply install Kube Hunter and get those stuff, right? And one shout out to the team behind this Minesweeper. So these 2 guys who built, Jacob and Jason, built Minesweeper, and they made it open source last year. And yeah, that's all I have. And if you have any question and answers, like if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Yeah, thank you, Koti. It actually was, though I did it a couple of days back, I think the explanation really helped me kind of, what do you call, map it to at what layer it actually applies. So to me, it was really great. Thank you so much, Koti. Team, if you have any questions, like Koti said, we still have a couple of minutes left. We can use that time for a productive Q&A session.
Yes, awesome.
Quickly checking whether anyone has already used any of these tools like Trivi, Cubebench, Falco, or something, or many of you were new to it. Okay, Ayush has a question. Getting
Yeah, getting
certificate
certificate.
command.
Yeah, I'll answer. You need to do yes. There is no comment. So once you're done with all the stages, like when you're done with gatekeeper, it will just give you a prompt telling you want a shareable certificate or not. When you say yes, so it will generate certificate and it will ask you first name, last name, and email, and it will based on that name and to that email which you have mentioned, it will send the certificate. So yeah, I had some issue. Okay, upgrade failed. Another operation install is in progress. Okay, is that kind of have you overcome that issue, or still you are facing that issue, Aish? I restarted the process. Okay, awesome. So hope that helps. So I just said clear. And any other questions before we wind up this session as part of prestigious KCD Kerala conference?
So,
Sorry,
I have a doubt. So, if
yes, yes.
we are not using Minesweeper,
Mhm.
sorry, my internet connection is unstable. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
So, if we are not going to know about Minesweeper, so if we want to install a particular, say, Falco or anything, so we'll install directly as a Helm chart, and there will not be a UI kind of. That is the only thing, right?
Yes, yes,
If I
yes,
understand.
correct, exactly.
Thanks.
And all these things, like whatever the majority of the tools like Cube Hunter, CubeSec, all are managing by Aquasec. Aquasec is one big player in this area. So they are maintaining these tools. Just like for Gatekeeper, Ranjit mentioned the Keyverno. Keyverno is one alternative for Gatekeeper, which is managed by Nirmata team. So similarly, but the majority of the tools which we talked about are managing by Aquasec, a company called Aquasec. But yeah, having said that, everything is open source. Any more questions from anybody?
Okay, so just wanted to conclude. Thank you so much, Koti, again. I'm just stopping my recording and then we'll conclude this.